In today's episode, we dive into how the vegan revolution has boosted the economy and provided a platform for small businesses and new concepts to grow and be explored. Get it? Grow? Ryan Meiring, you are co-founder and CEO of Munching Mongoose. Tell me about your company.
Okay, cool, man. Well, thanks for having me. Nice to meet you.
So
actually, it was formed by my brother many years ago. The company's about 7 years old now, 8 years old. He immigrated, and so some other people have taken the helm. An awesome NGO has taken the reins, and I've remained involved kind of in the capacity that I am to assist where I can. And I'm a part-time first-generation farmer, so really my role in the company is sort of vetting the suppliers and being on the supply side and checking out, which I love, going out to small farms and sort of seeing what these cool small-scale producers are doing, and then just ensuring quality and that the guys are farming with the right principles, ensuring that quality for our customers.
So this episode is about plant to plate.
Okay.
Are you vegan?
I am not.
Okay, let's talk about this. Carnivore. How did you get involved in this and you're not vegan?
Okay, so I think the important thing to realize is that for us, it's not whether it's vegan or it's meat. It's about eating the right food. Okay. So if you happen to be a carnivore, then eat the right meat. If you happen to be a vegetarian, then eat the right vegetables.
Oh, okay.
So it's really about I guess a quality conversation over anything else. So so for us, I think for me, and again coming from the farming sort of perspective, the metric for successful farming, I believe, is incorrect. And generally, we measure, or the success of farming is measured on yield, tonnage per hectare. So it becomes a quantity metric. Whereas if we're talking nutrient density, so we're talking about the quality of the food, then it sort of sorts a lot of this.
How do you measure
this contention out? So that's part of the challenge. It's not easy to measure, but often the proof is in the pudding. So it's in the results, right? So, I think when it comes to food production, we've been producing food for a very long time in a certain way, and that's irrespective of what you choose to eat. We could call that industrial food, and it has its downsides. So, the industrial food complex with factory farming, etc., that food is not necessarily let's say the externalities of the production of that food is not factored into the price of that food. And so, again, it comes down to quality. And so that's what we're after is trying to determine what is quality food and delivering that to our customers.
All right. Another thing I want to ask. So I won't mention the name of the particular place that I shop at a lot, but I can leave my apples in the fridge from this particular place for like 3, 4, 5 weeks, and they'll be exactly the same when I come back. Yeah. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
Again, it's a nuanced conversation that we need to have. I think, so in my view, food should be plucked in its prime in the right season to get its maximum nutritional value, right? What we've become accustomed to in our world, society, I think it's a societal issue, is that we've got very attached to convenience and having what we want when we want it. And so this means that we've got very good in this industrial food system at shipping, preserving, and providing that convenience to people. Whether that translates into good food and quality is the debatable point. There's certain stats that are thrown out, and again, in these days, with all the misinformation, it's hard to know what's the truth, but where take something like 20 apples to get the same nutritional value of an apple eaten that was grown in 1950, or whatever the case is. So it's those kind of things that we need to start sort of looking at. Again, it's not when you're comparing literally apples with apples, it's not always the case that you're comparing the same thing.
So I didn't know that there's a season for oranges. And once I ordered orange juice, and then the guy was like, no, it's out of season. And I was like, and there was a lady next to me who was like, hey, out of season. It's not good for the planet if you have orange juice in this particular time. Tell me about that, because I love orange juice.
Yeah.
This is the personal question. I don't know if you know, listen to this. I love orange juice. I would love orange juice 365 days a year, but I hear there's times when it actually isn't lekker to have orange juice.
Well, I think that's part of what we've been trying to educate our customers on is this idea of seasonality. Right now, it has many benefits in the same way that if we're looking at the way we produce food has its pros and cons. You know, seasonality, you're going to get the most nutritional value out of something, like I said before, that is plucked in its prime at the time that it is meant to be grown. So the benefit to the human consuming it at that point in time is definitely there. The point she made about the planet is also a significant point because, let's just say in South Africa, our citrus season is during summer, whatever the case is. And you can't get it in the season that you were looking for your orange juice. For you to have it, or for this retailer or supplier to give you that orange juice that you've been enjoying, it had to come from elsewhere, in another zone, in another country, across the oceans. And now, these are the externalities that I was talking about. When you start to factor in the cost of shipping, the cost of preserving, the refrigeration required to keep it fresh for you to enjoy at this time out of the local season, then, when you start factoring in those externalities, those extra costs, the environmental damage through all the shipping, then we should be re-looking at the way that we're sort of doing these things. So seasonality, while, potentially being inconvenient, is actually, there's incredible upsides to it, particularly with regard to nutrition and taste. Taste is the other one. We've become these functional eaters where we just literally, I just need the calories, or I'm just going to put it in my body for, it's functional. And I think that's actually leads me almost into the other point about, why Munching Mongoose exists, which is it's about human connection. We've also forgotten that the dinner table, is the place where we congregate, where we're like social animals, and like food is so central to that. And so like the taste of food is also the important part, finding more and more chefs that are connecting with the farmers because they recognize they can create these unbelievable, beautiful dishes. But, a big part of, obviously, when you look at it in retrospect, the importance of that meal is how it tastes. And so, plucking that fruit or that vegetable at its optimal time is going to have a massive impact on the quality taste of that food.
So you speak about soil farming, right? You want to be a soil farmer. What is that? It sounds very interesting. And for me, what I like when you speak is that I like that you speak, because sometimes you listen to people who are vegan online, and there's always I always feel like there's I think everyone's trying to push their narrative, and what I like is that you're speaking about narratives in general and different kinds of things. I love your passion. I could listen to you speak about it for long. Soil farming, talk about that.
So I think it's just a fundamental reframe of farming. If we're going to be trying to get people to see that the current way that we produce food, or the way that we have since sort of World War II, where actually, quick history lesson, we took on a lot of the technology from World War II, became the foundation for the farming that we've done since those times. So since the 1940s and 50s, we've been farming using chemicals that were actually produced as part of the war machine for World War II. And so we've produced in that way for many, many years. It is proving to be very unsustainable to the land, to people. Again, these externalities, when you start factoring in the health costs of getting people with chronic and lifestyle diseases better, when you're trying to heal the planet, because we've been pouring chemicals and excess fertilizer on the plants as a way of producing for many, many years, we have to look at more sustainable ways of farming. So when I talk about soil farming, we support agriculture generally, and we buy from producers that are looking after the soil. And what that means is it's a more fundamental layer to farming. So if your soil is healthy, whatever you plant in it is going to be healthy. You've heard that saying, you are what you eat. I believe the actual saying is, you are what you eats. So if you're eating a delicious chicken, what is it eating? What are its ingredients? Because that's going to factor into the quality, taste, and sustainability of that chicken. And it's the same with vegetables. So, sort of reducing farming to a more foundational level of soil. Within soil, I don't know if you've heard that stat, that in 1 teaspoon of soil, there's more life, there's more living microbes and microbial activity than all other living beings pretty much on the planet. It's like there's like a ridiculous amount of life in healthy soil. In denuded and soil that's not been looked after, it's the opposite, and hence why you have to use a lot of these external inputs to keep the system going. So basically, it's a way of working with nature rather than against nature.
So to get all this quality food always seems to be a lot more expensive. How can we make sure it's more affordable?
It's a very good question, because it's a common question, and it is, I believe, a value perception issue. I don't actually think it's fundamentally more expensive at the till. We recently actually did an exercise in comparing our produce delivered to some of the bigger retailers. So basically filled one of their shopping carts with an equivalent set of produce, and we came out pretty much on par cost-wise. So although ours is organic, sourced from small-scale producers that are growing sustainably, arguably it's healthier, and it's delivered to your door, we come out on par. I think where the misperception comes in is that again, going back to convenience, we've become accustomed to a certain way of shopping. It's so convenient, and you have to give credit to these big retailers who've made it that convenient. But what it does is, when you do a week's worth of shopping, you do it in increments. So you'll go like, check is 60/60, I forgot to get my XYZ, and in an hour's time, it's delivered for $30. It's like, it's phenomenal service. But what you do is you're not shopping like we used to back in the day for the week. Our model is that you shop weekly. And so the purchase price at the till at that point in time, even though we're an online service, feels like more. But if you actually do the maths on it, it's very much the same. And we've actually done the price comparison. So I think we're coming back. What I would love to see at some point in the near future is something like true cost accounting to come to the fore. And what that does is it starts to account for the health, either up or down, the environmental, either up or down, of your product at the till. Even if we're not going to charge people, at least on the label, show them, by eating this, you've contributed to, I don't know, the excess nitrogen flowing into the Mississippi, which has then caused a dead zone in the sea, or whatever the case is, So I think that's where we'll start to create more perception value equivalent on the different places you can get this sort of comparative food. Again, arguably, is it comparative? But and then if we can start to more clearly link the quality of this produce to nutrient density as a metric, and there's a bit of science around that, and that's hopefully will come to the fore, where you can show that this apple is not 1 or 2 or 3 times better than this apple. It's actually 10 or 20 or 30 times more. Then it's a quality. Then go, dude. Go eat 6 of those. I'm going to eat this one. And then on net value, it's going to cost me less.
Okay, let's go back to the basics of explaining exactly what you guys do as a business, like in the most simplest way possible. Because I'm loving everything we're talking about, but I want to understand what you guys do in the simplest way possible. What do you guys do?
Okay, so it's a subscription food service. It's an e-commerce business. We deliver fresh, seasonal, organic produce to people's doors on a weekly basis. Okay. So, our customers can choose from a variety of different, let's call it boxes, that comes as a base. So I'm a staples guy. I like my bread, my milks, my cheeses, eggs, fresh farm eggs from like beautifully regeneratively raised chickens on pasture. So that becomes my base box. So I get an SMS from Munching Mongoose saying the store is open. I hop online and my box is there, and then I can do all my customizations and add-ons. So that week, maybe I want to add in some extra veg, or I've got some mates staying over and I know we're going to make lots of good coffee. So I throw coffee in and some extra milk. And then that order closes the following day. So I've got about 24 hours to shop. Okay. And then on a Thursday or Friday, we do 2 delivery runs and we deliver that to our customer's door. So the delivery is included. And so weekly I get this beautiful box of amazing produce from, I'm supporting local farmers, and I know I'm putting unbelievably healthy food in my family's bellies, and on top of that, we're trying to create this sort of culture almost of people eating around a family table, you know. So
The F words: food, fun, family.
family, amazing. Can we nick that?
No, yeah, please. Because it's so funny. I read up and it says the F words: food, fun, family. Do we need to go back to those basics of food, fun, family?
So I think, you know, the family comment, because I've harped on about like all the geeky stuff that I get super interested in.
I promise you, I'm a geek. People don't realize it, but I'm a geek.
Yeah, so it's that soil stuff. I, you know, can go on microbes and all the exciting stuff to me. But, you know, really the essence of the business, if you were to distill it into something quite simple and taking that family component, it's really about that. You know, I think, and we can probably all to some degree attest to society having lost its way somewhat, particularly with respect to human connection and the fact that we live these sort of separate lives. But it's, you know, it's getting the family around the dinner table again. Like, so, you know, imagine a nice glass of red wine and an amazing cooked meal and how you're connecting. I think the longest standing research study ever completed, it's a Harvard study or something.
Yes, 1930. Wait, where's it from? Yes, I just
It's like 1930 something.
Yes, I just heard of it yesterday.
And there were these different cohorts of guys that were studying. But the essence of it was trying to say, like, what brings happiness?
Yes.
And out of 85 years of studying, they basically distilled it to, well, it's about relationships and human connection.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. That's like, dudes, we don't have to look further. That's happiness, right?
And then I was listening to a podcast recently that says, yes, we find happiness, but we spend our whole lives trying to consistently keep it.
Yeah.
You're not always going to be your happiest, but it's just about trying to find ways. But people, relationships are the best way to consistently keep it. And food and being, that's the oldest thing possible. Around a fire, you know, putting meat, a braai. People think braais are just about, no, it's not about burning meat, bruh. It's about the relationships, having a beer,
100%.
having a drink and being around. And for me, if your meat tastes good, you know, and you know it comes from a good place, brilliant. It's so fun. I just heard this yesterday.
So that's exactly it.
Yeah.
You know, so like, you know, creating those opportunities for connection around a dinner table, like that's actually the essence. You know, the organic healthy food is sort of like a byproduct of that. But it's really about that human connection around a dinner table. You know, I've got 2 little ones, and even though they're so small and hardly understand why we're doing it, like we eat at the dinner table and we have that moment of connection, you know, and that's often centered around a Munching Mongoose recipe based on the box that I've ordered that week, you know. So like that's really the essence of it. Yeah.
Well, so we live in South Africa. We know that majority of people are unemployed or poor. You know what I mean? A lot of them have got no time to think about. They just need to put food in their belly, right? How can we, as being South African, how can we be better? How can we make sure that the poor majority are eating, you know, healthier? Because I can remember growing up, I didn't have much. We didn't sit at the dinner table. You sat there in front of the table, but the least thing my mother was thinking about was that. How can we be better in this as being South Africans and Africans who, you know, people are struggling to put food on the table?
So I think, you know, so it's interesting because, again, I think it comes down to a reframe. So I've been working on some projects where, again, you can see the drive is for people to get economic stability, and I completely understand the mandate. But if you look at, like, the hierarchy of needs, you know, it's like first you put food in the table, put shelter over your family, and, you know, protect your family. Like, that's where the foundational layers are. And I believe food security and your ability to grow your own food is actually how you take your own power back.
Agreed.
Right? So if you're producing your own food, like money is not in the equation. And so what inevitably happens is we end up supporting people that are from a very subsistence basis, or started at least extremely, you know, from an extreme subsistence base. And what's interesting is that might not be certified organic, because it's actually really expensive to be certified organic. But if you go and spend time with them and look at the way that they're growing, it is the best version of organic you can get, because the guy can't afford chemicals to put on his plants, and he's learned to become one with the way that he produces food, and he's intimately involved in how he's growing. And so for me, that's actually what it is. It's selling the idea of taking your power back by growing your own food. And then you solve the problem of food security. You solve the health crisis. You solve inequality, because what is it that, you know, if you're begging for a job or you're begging for money, obviously that's not where we want people to be. But if you've got a full stomach and you're able to provide for your family, that's like, even from a psychological standpoint, it puts you at a completely different place. And then like Munching Mongoose will buy from you. And then it's sort of like it spins up from there, you know. So those are the kind of people that we're looking to support. So whilst they may not be our customers, you know what I mean? Like it's part of the whole food ecosystem that we're trying to grow.
Ending off, a lot of people are speaking about farming, giving land back to people and all that kind of stuff. And I'm always thinking to myself, not everyone knows how to be a farmer. And not everyone is a farmer. But what are your thoughts of having at least one family member getting an opportunity to study agriculture or getting you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we can't be giving farms to people if no one in the household knows how to farm.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing to do. What do you think needs to be done in South Africa to be able to make it easier for people in different families to be able to get education, to be able to know how to farm and how to do it well and how to do it sustainably?
So there's a few things that come up. One, you know, I think the land debate is a red herring. So, you know, we've been on projects and we support certain producers that land is not the issue. You know, these guys are producing high intensity growing in small spaces. Like the space, you know, I think that's almost a distraction from the opportunity. You know, if you think about, we're basing that on these massive corn farms, and we've been sold a picture of what farming looks like, and that's highly technical farming.
Yes,
and that does require big investment, big education, big experience, and that's then it becomes a massive barrier. My belief is that isn't the future. That way of farming is actually not sustainable long term. Right, we have to feed people in the interim, and so there's a transition towards something more sustainable. So I'm not expecting, you know, an overnight change, but I don't think it's where we should be focusing. So, you know, I think we should be looking at different ways of producing. Anyway, so the land, I think, it's a bit of a red herring. And I think, you know, to get someone in the family growing is always, and you know what's interesting is that, you know, you start having those conversations around a dinner table, suddenly ancestral knowledge starts getting passed down. Suddenly you start realizing someone in every family has green fingers and can learn to grow. It's not something, you know, we've somehow been disconnected from it, you know, through this modern age of food production, but actually it's in all of us. So, yeah.
Man, we spoke about everything in just over 20 minutes. Thank you so much. Once again, love your passion. I love having people who are very passionate about not just talking about business, but what their business actually works in the community they work in. So thank you so much. I look forward to getting a basket from you.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for having me.
After that episode, I'm actually pretty hungry. I hope you guys enjoyed. See you next time.